This week at Lebanon Road, we're talking not about freezing, even though we should.
Although it's on my mind.
We are talking about transitioning in 2014. Along with J.D. Buckner, I'm Adam Fawn, and J.D., it is cold.
It is really cold in here. We need a big thermostat we could just show to you guys. It's probably like 30 degrees in here.
A few weeks ago, we mentioned that the room we record in is not usually heated during the week, so we just kind of put up with it. And this week, we're wearing hats and gloves because it is cold in this room. So, but anyway, we didn't come here to talk about freezing, although we could spend a long time talking about that. But this week is the first full week of 2014, and one of the things I love about Lebanon Road that we try to do at the beginning of every year is lay out the plans for the year. We don't just take, it's June and we're still figuring out what we're doing. We've done a lot of planning ahead of time. We lay out a theme for the year. This year's theme, 2014, is a royal relationship. But we also take the time to lay out congregational goals. And one of the things that I like that we've done this year, JD, is usually we have 10, 12, 15 goals. Mm-hmm. This year we have a grand total of 4. And I like that we've kind of pared them down. And we'll talk about what they actually are in a moment. But just talk for a second about this idea of not having, a big, dozen or baker's dozen or whatever, but having just 4, and why that's important for us.
Okay. Well, we're trying to be as simple as possible in our work.
Shaking the table.
You can hold it. It's great to have a lot of goals that you want to accomplish, but sometimes when you have so many, it can become overwhelming. Where do I start? How can I accomplish any of these? So if you can make it simpler, it makes it a little more encouraging to complete and those sorts of things. So the goals this year started with, what is the true mission of the church? What are we here to do? And when Jesus came to earth, and what did he teach us, and what did he want us to do after he left this earth? And so you think of ideas like, well, Jesus came to seek and save the lost. You think of ideas of the Great Commission, what he left for his disciples before he ascended into heaven, and all those sorts of things. And that's where we came up with our 4 goals.
Right.
That we think, it's not to make it contrite or flippant in any way, but I hope that these 4 goals can sort of encapsulate the message of the Bible. Right. Not that you can boil it down to something so simple, but something easy for us to remember. And should I say them?
Sure, we'll go. That's where we're going next. Okay, is what they actually are. So
back to you.
we mentioned there are 4, and what we tried to do, and I say we, not the 2 of us. We were involved in it, but a lot of people put time into this. Elders and deacons, lots of folks put some time into this. What was make these where they're generic enough, where they're easy to remember, but as you said, they cover a lot of ground, but specific enough where we can put certain things we'd like to accomplish and say this is the goal that it fits under. This is the area that this emphasizes. And the 4, number 1 is to love God. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. The second one is
like unto it.
Is to love our neighbors. Love your neighbor as yourself. And of course, as we were joking there about the verse, those tied together, as Jesus said. The third, you mentioned the Great Commission. The third is to make disciples. That's what we're here to do. We're Christians, and we're supposed to be trying to make other Christians or help others become Christians. And then the fourth is, once those people become Christians, is to help them build relationships. Build relationships with God, relationships with one another, within the church. And so, but we'll talk about those, each one specifically as we can in the time we have. But one of the things we tried to do in laying those out, and I meant to bring the business card, and I forgot, Brother Ralph, sorry, is we laid them out in the form of a circle.
Yes.
Explain that idea of not just listing them, but we kind of graphically laid them out in the form of a circle.
Okay. So, we start with the greatest commandment. We love God.
Well, wait a minute. I did have it.
Oh, look out.
Right there it is. Yeah. There's the circle.
That's where we all need to start. We love God. We present our worship to him. We show our love to him. But the Bible defines love for God in a very particular way. Jesus described it as keeping the commandments of God, keeping the commandments of Jesus. And so that sort of starts our process. We love God. Well, what does God want us to do to show our love for him? Well, he wants us to make disciples. Before we can make disciples, we have to build relationships with people. And that encapsulates what Adam said, loving our neighbor as ourselves. We have to know people and know where they are so that we can help them get to where God wants them to be. And so for everyday Christians at Lebanon Road, it means looking at the relationships we already have with people and seeing who needs to hear the gospel. And then it also means looking for people that we can build relationships with that we don't know so that we can eventually share the gospel with them. Once we've built relationships, we get to the third step, which is make disciples. And that's the Great Commission, right? Jesus said, go and make disciples, baptizing them, teaching them the things that I've commanded you, and remember, I'm always with you. But that's our goal, is to make disciples. And then once we've made disciples, we kind of ask, well, now what? What do I need to be doing? What does a new disciple need to be doing? We don't ever want to be the people that gets them under the water and then says, good luck.
Yep.
So that's been a big deal for us, and that's where becoming like Christ.
Which I failed to mention a minute ago.
Well, it was in there.
Yeah.
We all want to become like Christ. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 3 that we are being transformed into the image of Christ. He said earlier in 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 1, it said, be imitators of me, be followers of me as I follow Christ. So we want to be more like Jesus so that when people see us, they see Christ through us. Like Matthew 5, let your light shine, so they glorify God and they see your good works, those sorts of things. And once we become like Christ, how do we become like Christ? Well, here's the circle. We love God, we build relationships, we make disciples. And so I think, Adam, that everybody at Lebanon Road can fit in one of these four categories.
Mm-hmm.
Could say, here's where I'm at, and then they know, well, here's the next step. Here's where I need to go.
Right. And I love when we came up with this idea. I remember sitting in the meeting and we were kind of writing these things out, kind of working on the wording and all the stuff you do that some people find really boring. I kind of like it. I'm kind of weird.
It was exciting.
And then somebody went up to, we had a little whiteboard, and they kind of started drawing arrows. We went, that's exactly it. I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to do is not just to list these things, but to help people see that, I never get to, I'll become more like Christ. Well, that's the end of things. No. I should be drawing closer to God. And so it's an ongoing, growth process that every one of us is we're probably in, if we're Christians, we're probably all four of them at all times.
Yeah.
But there's always one that I need to be working on a little more or trying to, incorporate some new talents or there's always areas to work on. So it's this circle idea of continuing to grow, continuing to progress, but then helping others do the same thing.
Yeah, I think absolutely that's the key. You may feel like as a Christian that you are in a good place and you're doing good work and becoming more like Christ. Well, then you, above all other people, need to be helping others get to where you are. So, there's work for all of us to do. The non-Christian, the new Christian, the mature Christian. We all have a new step or a direction that we're going and another movement to make, I guess. Whether it's becoming a Christian, maturing as a Christian, or as a mature Christian, helping others to become a Christian. Those sorts of things.
Yeah. So those are our goals for 2014 here at Lebanon Road, to love God, to build relationships, what I called loving neighbors a minute ago. That's where I got mixed up. Building relationships, making disciples, and then becoming more like Christ, but continuing that circle, continuing that work as we go throughout not only this year, but really throughout our lives. We also are transitioning in the fact that, JD, next week, Lord willing, we have this video. There'll be 3 of us sitting at this table.
Yeah, an old familiar face.
That's right. We are excited that this week Brother Andrew Pate is coming back to Lebanon Road. He's going to begin working as our youth minister. You're going to be transitioning to becoming the minister of growth and education. Yeah, growth and
It's a mouthful.
Minister of growth and education. I'm getting there eventually. All these new terms are all mixing me up and getting me confused. But we'll probably take next week's video to talk a little bit about to both of you and how that transition is going, and will continue to go for some time. And just a lot of great things, exciting things we begin this year here at Lebanon Road, and we hope that you're excited about these things. You can visit our website at www.lebanonroadchurchofchrist.org to learn more about us, where we are, and find out more details of what goes on here. We're excited about these videos, getting back into the flow of things. We hope they're encouraging to you. Until next week, this is This Week at Lebanon Road.